The broadcast is recording. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening and welcome to Reproaction's September Act and Learn webinar. Tonight is a very serious topic, how activists can prepare for a post-Roe world. So first we'll introduce our hosts. The first voice you hear is myself, Erin Matson. I'm one of the co-founders of Reproaction and I am based in Arlington, Virginia.
And I am Pamela Merritt, the other co-founder and co-director of Reproaction, and I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri. Just a quick run through of our agenda for the evening. There'll be a quick introduction of Reproaction for people who are not familiar with our organization, and then an overview of the precarious status of Roe v. Wade. We're going to talk about what is self-managed abortion. How can you help change the narrative about self-managed abortion, including talking about self-managed abortion, a wonderful training by our senior organizer, Caitlin Blunny. And then we're going to prepare for the end of Roe, top 6 tips. We're going to go over some next steps. And then at the end of the webinar, we're going to have time set aside for Q&A. If you have questions throughout this process, please drop them into the questions tab on your GoToWebinar control panel. And I will go through them at the end and get to as many as possible. The hashtag for live tweeting tonight is #Reproaction. Reproaction is a new direct action group formed to increase access to abortion and advance reproductive justice. We are proud of our left flank analysis, our willingness to hold folks on all sides accountable, whether they identify as allies or the opposition, and of our commitment to nonviolent direct action. Erin.
All right, thank you, Pamela. So first, let's talk about the precarious status of Roe v. Wade. So we're all on the same page. Roe v. Wade is the 1973 Supreme Court decision that recognized the federal constitutional right to abortion. Prior to that, it was okay for the states to have abortion be legal or not legal. Since the Roe v. Wade decision, overturning Roe v. Wade has been a #1 priority for the anti-abortion movement, and they have used the following strategies to try to get that goal. 1, to stack the Supreme Court with anti-Roe votes, so Supreme Court justices who would vote to overturn the Roe v. Wade decision, and 2, to introduce state and federal laws that put new restrictions on abortion access now and can be used to challenge Roe at the Supreme Court. So first, we want to acknowledge that today has been an excruciatingly difficult day for people all over this country. We want to express our support and solidarity with Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, with Deborah Ramirez, and with Julie Swetnick, who have bravely come forward to share their stories of sexual assault and to bravely speak about the Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, who's currently facing these allegations. We'd like to start with just a moment of silence to honor these women and particularly to honor Dr. Blasey Ford, who did incredible service to our country today. So I'll just take a moment of silence and I ask that you please focus on sending healing energy to her family, and to survivors around the country. All right, thank you. And thank you for joining us on this very difficult evening in America. We really appreciate that you're here. I can say from my perspective, it feels really good to be on this webinar and preparing to do something proactive rather than simply focusing on the horrific treatment that Dr. Blasey Ford endured at the hands of conservatives in the Judiciary Committee who did not honor her. So let's transition to talking a bit more about the Supreme Court and specifically about the balance of power. So Donald Trump made a promise to end Roe, and at this point, I'd like to share his own words because I think they describe better than I could what we're up against.
On another issue which divides you and the justices that whoever ends up winning this election appoints could have a dramatic effect there, and that's the issue of abortion.
Right.
Mr. Trump, you're pro-life, but I want to ask you specifically, do you want the court, including the justices that you will name, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which includes, in fact, states a woman's right to abortion?
Well, if that would happen, because I am pro-life and I will be appointing pro-life judges, I would think that that will go back to the individual states.
But I'm asking you specifically, would you like
If they overturned it, it'll go back to the states.
But what I'm asking you, sir, is do you want to see the court overturn? You just said you want to see the court protect the Second Amendment. Do you want to see the court overturn Roe v. Wade?
Well, if we put another 2 or perhaps 3 justices on, that's really what's going to be, will happen. And that'll happen automatically, in my opinion, because I am putting pro-life justices on the court. I will say this, it will go back to the states, and the states will then make a determination.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, so as Donald Trump said, it will happen automatically because he will only appoint pro-life justices. Of course, it doesn't happen automatically, but what he is indicating is that he would only appoint justices to overturn Roe, and at this point, he has already appointed one successfully, and that is Justice Neil Gorsuch, and now he has the power to do another. So on our Supreme Court, we have 4 justices who support abortion rights: Justices Breyer, Ginsburg, Kagan, and Sotomayor. We have 4 justices who oppose abortion rights: Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Roberts, and Thomas. And I just want to underscore that the current open seat will tip the balance of power to a solid 5-4 majority against abortion. So that is exactly what Donald Trump had laid out when he campaigned. We saw he kept his campaign promises. And that's what we're up against. And that's why we're hosting this webinar tonight, because we want you to be prepared for that post-Roe world. So about Brett Kavanaugh, we know that he issued an opinion against a detained immigrant minor's right to abortion. We know that he referred to contraception as, quote, abortion-inducing drugs, unquote, during his confirmation hearing, which is a dog whistle. We know that he was deliberately evasive about his views on overturning Roe v. Wade during hearings, including the evasiveness became much more clear as emails came out from when he was in the Bush administration, where he acknowledged that Supreme Court justices could overturn Roe v. Wade, and at the time there were already 3 who would vote to do so. We know also that today, while he was in the hearing room, one of the most prominent leaders in the anti-abortion movement was there, likely looking directly at the senators who were the angry old white men who were screaming and shouting. And I want to underscore that the sexual assault allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, which are extremely credible, are logically coherent with the pro-life viewpoint, that denial of bodily autonomy is one worldview. So, well, I hope and pray, and I believe everyone on this call hopes and prays that Kavanaugh will be defeated. We also know that if he is not confirmed, Trump will put another replacement forward who will also be opposed to Roe. And so if Kavanaugh or a Trump replacement is confirmed, there is a significant chance that Roe will be overturned or gutted within 1 to 2 years. That's because there are multiple cases winding their way up through the federal courts on a specific type of second trimester abortion procedure ban. And the ban is a direct attack on Roe v. Wade. If Roe is overturned, 4 states have laws to automatically ban abortion. 9 states still have pre-Roe bans on the books, which would then be enforced. And 7 states currently have laws expressing intent to restrict abortion to the maximum allowable amount in an absence of Roe. We can expect that if Roe v. Wade is either completely overturned or gutted and made meaningless, rendered meaningless while remaining on paper only, that that abortion opponents will rally to try to bring about personhood bans and other extreme full abortion bans in as many states as possible. So I want to stress that this list is not static. So here's an image of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg planking. Maybe some of you have heard the phrase plank, RBG plank. She's healthy and sprightly and wonderful. But I want to underscore that Trump still has 2 more years to nominate additional Supreme Court justices in the event of a vacancy. So if the 5-4 majority tips against abortion rights with Kavanaugh or another nominee that Trump appoints, there's still a chance that there could be additional Supreme Court justices to further solidify that. So it's a grim reality, and the numbers are against us. And that's why we want to have a talk with you tonight about self-managed abortion and what you can do now as activists to start laying the groundwork and getting people more comfortable with this concept. Self-managed abortion is when a person ends their pregnancy outside of a medical setting, and that encompasses a variety of methods. Reproaction is proud to have a self-managed abortion campaign for the purpose of raising awareness and building a grassroots base of support to overturn unjust laws that criminalize self-managed abortion. And I want to be clear that self-managed abortion is a new frontier in abortion access, and it's not just about a reaction to a scenario where there's no longer a federal constitutional right to abortion. That self-managed abortion offers a number of alternate realities about abortion and increasing access to abortion, perhaps making circumstances more comfortable for someone who chooses to do so at home. So while I want to be clear that while no method of self-managed abortion should be shamed and no method should be criminalized, Reproaction specifically focuses on self-managed abortion with pills, and that includes misoprostol or using misoprostol and mifepristone. So something I want to underscore, because there's been a great deal of talk about what happens if Roe v. Wade is overturned in the media and in activist circles following the retirement of swing vote Justice Kennedy and the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh. Times have changed greatly since the days before Roe in 1973. We have self-managed abortion with pills, and it's safe and effective. And prior to Roe, the threat of abortion being illegal was primarily medical. People were seeking back alley abortions from butchers. People were using unsafe methods, and there were deaths. Post-Roe, we really see that the threat of abortion being illegal is primarily legal. In other words, we are deeply concerned about people going to jail for ending their pregnancies. And I want to stress that while the threat of butchers and unsafe methods does not go away entirely, and it never will, in fact, that exists, both of those things exist today in the United States when we do have Roe v. Wade and terrible abortion access in this country. But something that's new is that the data from countries where abortion is banned, we have a long track record of this, shows that people are able to take misoprostol on their own to safely and effectively end their pregnancies. The issue is that we're concerned about them going to jail. And in particular, women of color and low-income women are already being prosecuted for ending their pregnancies in the United States. We know that there have been at least 20 arrests for self-managed abortion in the United States recently. And we also know that people are being prosecuted for a variety of pregnancy outcomes, including in my home state of Virginia, where the governor recently pardoned a woman who was convicted after experiencing a stillbirth in her home, and a prosecutor decided that it was a good idea for him to go after her. So with that, now that I've teed up the reality, Caitlin's going to dig in with us for a training about talking about self-managed abortion.
Thank you so much, Erin. So yeah, I'm going to go through some great ways to talk about self-managed abortion. So if we could go to the next slide. So as mentioned earlier, Reproaction Self-Managed Abortion Campaign is raising awareness of self-managed abortion to reduce stigma and build grassroots power to change unjust laws. We believe that people are capable of determining what is best for their bodies, futures, and their health care, which of course includes the decision to have an abortion. Like it was mentioned before, our campaign focuses primarily on self-managed abortion with pills, and we've been building grassroots support in a number of states in the United States. So I'm going to go through some talking points. This is in no way a script, but rather a guide to help you get an idea of how to talk about self-managed abortion and bring this conversation to your community. So our first talking point is when someone decides to end a pregnancy, they should be able to do so safely and with dignity, whether they go to a provider at a clinic or manage their abortion at home. And this is looking forward to stop framing abortion as a self-managed abortion as a matter of last resort. We really want to get away from the imagery of like the coat hanger and back alley and emphasize that this is a choice that someone is deliberately making. And some things to hit on with this is that the availability of medication abortion has created new possibilities for abortion care in the United States, which include managing a safe and afforded abortion home. And the reason why this isn't available in the United States isn't because it's unsafe, but because of overregulation and anti-abortion policies. We also want to emphasize that while some people may find it surprising that someone may want to choose to self-manage their abortion, there are a ton of reasons why someone may choose to do so, which include wanting privacy, wanting convenience or comfort. We're never going to really know what circumstances lead someone to do that, and we're not in a position to judge that. A self-managed abortion also allows the person to decide who will be there for them and control the timing and location, which can be empowering for somebody who's ending a pregnancy on their own terms. Next slide. So our next talking point is, though medication abortion is legal and has been proven safe and effective, it is overregulated and requires a person to travel to a clinic to receive the medication, which can often push it out of reach for many people. The safety of medication abortion has been proven by multiple independent studies, and the main barrier to access at this point is anti-abortion politicians and abortion stigma. Despite this, access to medication in the United States is actually becoming a lot easier. We can often get prescriptions with our phones or online, yet because of the politicians in the United States, abortion pills have medically unnecessary regulations, which keep them out of the hands of people who need them. And restrictions on abortion, while they affect people and women of all backgrounds, fall hardest on those most marginalized, and those are often the people who face financial and logistical barriers to care. There's still a belief in the United States that it's somehow easy to get an abortion, but anti-abortion laws in many states have forced many clinics to close, which often require people to drive hundreds of miles, sometimes out of state, just to get care. And then on top of that, it's expensive, and the cost of an unexpected medical procedure that many insurance companies don't cover can be a significant barrier for a lot of people. Next slide. So our last talking point is that medication abortion is an FDA-approved method to end pregnancy. After more than 15 years of use in the United States, we know it's extremely safe and effective, which was documented recently in a 2018 report titled The Safety and Quality of Abortion Care in the United States, published by the National Academies of Science and Engineering Medicine. As mentioned earlier, times have changed. We now have options like telemedicine that we just simply didn't have 40 years ago. And we know that self-managed abortion methods like the abortion pill are safe and effective when used according to direction. And that when people have information about what to expect and a way to get those questions answered, they're able to use the abortion pill safely and effectively on their own, which puts it on us to make sure that accurate information and reliable support are available to everybody who wants to explore the option of self-managing their abortion. Next slide. So here are some do's and don'ts for when you are talking about self-managed abortion. Our first do is explain self-managed abortion in basic terms. We know that the public is still being introduced to this idea, and we want to make sure that when we introduce it, we're using simple language that's easy to understand. We also want to anticipate that people on our side, along with the public, will define and think and talk about self-managed abortion in different ways, which is really why it's so important that we must educate our community and reinforce the wealth of evidence supporting the safety of medication abortion and the harm of medically unnecessary regulations and laws restricting access. We also want to make sure that we're calm and reassuring. This can be an emotional issue for some people, and we don't want to use negative language that may backfire against someone who's seeking to self-manage their abortion. We do want to acknowledge that people have valid reasons for seeking abortion care that best fits their lives. And we want to use language that reflects the dignity and the people who are engaged in self-managed abortion and those who support them. Some don't. So going off the last one, we don't want to reinforce negative or stigmatizing frames when talking about self-managed abortion. So this includes not using self-managed abortion as shorthand for unsafe or illegal abortion, and also avoiding terms like blotched abortion. We also don't want to use terms like desperate women or desperate situations, because desperate as an adjective feeds the stereotype that this is like emotional women and people acting erratically or irresponsibly. We also don't want to sensationalize the practice by calling it a flea market abortion or black market abortion. Instead, we should be emphasizing the person's agency and circumstance when we're having those conversations. We also don't want to make assumptions about how someone may choose to self-manage. As mentioned before, Reproaction's self-managed abortion campaign focuses primarily on abortion pills. However, we're not in a place to judge people for the practices that may be unique to their communities and lives. Our next one is we also don't want to undermine the need for abortions within clinics. In an ideal world, people would have the option to go to either to choose what is best for their lives. We're in no way putting one over the other. And our last point, which is the most important, is we don't want to overlook reproductive justice principles when talking about self-managed abortion. So that means that when we're talking about this, we should take an intersectional approach, which pays attention to factors like race, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, geography, immigration status, and other socio-political markers. We don't want to marginalize or exclude communities who are most impacted by self-managed abortion, which includes communities of color, people from low-income backgrounds, queer and trans people, immigrant communities, especially undocumented people, youth and communities most profiled and at the risk of criminalization in a self-managed abortion context. We can go to the next slide. So there is something really awesome you can do to make a huge impact on this, which is writing an op-ed, which we can go to the next slide. So essentially, this is like a basic structure for writing an op-ed. Typically, you have a hook, and then you introduce your argument. That argument is then backed up with 2 to 3 points that have great sources and information that really support your argument. And then before you conclude, typically, we have like a to be sure paragraph, which perhaps will recognize any flaws in your argument that you would like the reader to know about. And things to consider when writing an op-ed is why should your reader trust you? So establishing yourself as somebody who is an authority on this issue, either in this context as an advocate or activist. Can you back your claims up with proof? Considering the so what, why is this important to people? And also thinking about how your ideas and argument will contribute to the conversation, and is it helpful to the community you are writing to? So there's a bunch of steps that go into writing an op-ed that go beyond writing. The first, of course, is identifying local outlets. So this usually there's a town paper or maybe your city, your county. There's even some state papers. So identifying outlets that you could potentially publish an op-ed in. Keeping an eye out for the right moment. It feels like there's always a right moment nowadays, but op-eds are more likely to be published when there's a lot of public debate or coverage of a particular issue in the news. We also want to make sure that when we're writing an op-ed that we emphasize a local or regional angle. This will increase your likelihood of getting published. In the self-managed abortion context, this could look at thinking about what abortion access looks like in your state or locally, or even in response to anything affecting abortion access. The next step is following submission guidelines, and the link there is from the op-ed project, which lists the top 100 publications for op-ed sources and essentially what their guidelines are. For local papers, it should be laid out on their website, and if it's not, you can always email a staff member or editor, and they'll be able to get you the information about how many words or any other specific requirements. We want to make sure that when we're writing these, we're using simple language. Again, going back to the point that this is a new topic for a lot of people, but at the same time, we don't want to steer away from big ideas or not show our readers something because we don't think they'll understand. The next step after we're done writing the op-ed is making sure that we write a pitch, which is essentially, typically it's an email to the editor explaining why you wrote the op-ed and essentially why it should be published. After that, if you do not hear back from the paper, it's always really good to follow up. And if you're having any trouble, you should reach out to help. And I'm here to help you, and I have my contact information on a later slide for your convenience. So the reason why we're emphasizing writing an op-ed is this is a really great way to introduce this topic in a positive and affirming way to your community. So before I wrap up, I wanted to go through some key takeaways that can help you when writing and talking about this issue. And the first one is, if access to abortion becomes more significantly restricted, those with financial resources will be able to travel to get abortions, while those without would either not be able to get abortions or would seek solutions outside the healthcare system. We already know low-income people and others in the United States who aren't able to get what they need have been taking their healthcare into their own hands, which means the number of people who will be considering self-managed abortion will grow and the practice could expand significantly. The next one is that there are safe options for ending a pregnancy that we simply did not have 40 years ago. Before abortion was legal, self-managed abortion was often a last resort, and there was a history of people resorting to coat hangers and dangerous back alley procedures. Now we must remember that people can get abortion pills, which is a safe option to end a pregnancy on their own. This is already happening in other countries where abortion is not legal or widely available. Research shows that when people have accurate information and a way to get their questions answered, they can use the abortion pill safely and effectively on their own. And as mentioned before, the risk here is legal, not medical. People who choose to end their own abortion pregnancies and those who assist them may be targeted, reported, and prosecuted for doing so. And our last point that we'll leave with is it's more important than ever that people understand that abortion pills are a safe option for ending a pregnancy, that they know where to get information about it, and that nobody is prosecuted for ending their own pregnancy. As mentioned before, studies from numerous other countries where abortion is illegal or legally restricted have demonstrated that the use of the abortion pill, when widespread and effective, is safer than other methods. It's on us to make sure that our communities have accurate information and reliable support about this information, and that is easily accessible. And that is it from me. If you're interested in this and you want to bring these conversations to your community, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to talk about this. We can help you with writing and editing. We also have an awesome op-ed template. And yeah, there's my email, so feel free to reach out. Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you, Caitlin. That was awesome. So if anyone has questions for Caitlin, please feel free to put them into the chat box, and also please reach out to her. So a couple quick tips for an activist to be prepared for the end of Roe. The first one, and there's 6 tips. The first is to empower yourself with information. So please go to www.reproaction.org to learn more about self-managed abortion with pills. We have on our campaign webpage, we share the World Health Organization protocol for safely and effectively ending a pregnancy with pills. We also link out to a number of reputable organizations that also do this work. Second thing that I want to do is encourage you to learn more by attending our online and in-person events about self-managed abortion. We are organizing events on the ground in several states: Arkansas, DC, Kansas, Maryland, Missouri, New York, and Virginia. That may grow over time. We're really excited about those works. We have a variety of events on the ground. And then we will continue to host new webinars and have recorded webinars on our website. We actually have an in-depth webinar on self-managed abortion under our activist resources section that includes clinicians and researchers and activists, and it's filled with more information. Another tip is to do exactly what Caitlin just taught you, to spread the word about self-managed abortion in your local press with an op-ed or letter to the editor. You can reach out to Caitlin at reproaction.org for support. And I can't underscore how important it is right now for us to help raise awareness about self-managed abortion with pills. This is something that a lot of people don't know about, and by getting the word out, educating yourself and educating others, it's actually one of the most effective things you can do, because we know that the need for abortion services will not go away if there is no federal constitutional right to abortion, and that we need to make sure that people are able to safely and effectively do what's right for themselves. Also, educate yourself about your state laws and abortions. Now is the time for you to understand the current lay of the land in your state. Guttmacher.org is a fantastic, reputable resource that we recommend. And then get involved now with reproductive justice activists in your community. Don't wait for more bad things to happen. Get involved now. So take action with Reproaction. Get to know your local abortion fund. Abortion funds are awesome resources. And link up with other activist groups in your community. So get to know people now and start building those relationships now, because we're all going to need each other. And this is the biggest one that I want to underscore. Continue to push now and today to increase access to abortion. I want to stress that we shouldn't be fooled that people are already facing extreme struggles in accessing abortion in the United States, with women of color and low-income people being hit the hardest. There are already several states with only one abortion provider. There are very long waiting periods. Abortion is often not covered by insurance. So we want to make sure that we increase access to abortion. And whether you have more or less access in your state, maintain a proactive stance. Every state could get better. Defending Roe is not the be-all, end-all. Keep doing proactive work now. Keep pushing harder and for more. With that, I'll pass it to Pamela.
Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you as well to Caitlin. That was remarkable. So a little housekeeping. As Erin and Caitlin mentioned, we want folks to plug into our campaigns. First, to sign up for alerts at reproaction.org, because that is the easiest and most efficient way to make sure that you find out about what's happening, what actions online and offline we have available, and also any breaking news or awesome blog posts that we post. We also have activist newsletters for the areas where we are on the ground that really highlight what's going on in your specific turf. So you want to sign up for alerts at reproaction.org. You can also follow us on social media. We've made it super easy for you. We are Reproaction on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, we do Act and Learn webinars every month. These are free and available to everybody. So save the date for our next Act and Learn webinar, which is Drug Use is No Excuse. Why is Wisconsin locking up pregnant women? As you may or may not know, we have an organizer on the ground in Wisconsin, and an active campaign to raise attention to and stop enforcement of Act 292, which criminalizes pregnant women and addiction while pregnancy. So if you want to hear more about that campaign and what's going on, and also why this is an issue that is broader and has implications all over the country, please do save the date, Tuesday, October 30th, from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And now we have time for some Q&A. So if you have questions, please do drop them into the question tab on the GoToWebinar control panel. And it looks like we've already got one. So the question is, what sources are women using to obtain misoprostol to perform their own home abortion? Erin, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I would. And thank you for the question. And I'm not going to answer it, and I'll tell you why I'm not going to answer it. At Reproaction, we've made a decision not to just share information about how and where people are accessing these pills. We are doing that deliberately because people are facing criminalization, and by that I mean literally going to jail for taking this medication. We know that abortion opponents are watching our work on self-managed abortion very closely, and we do not want to do anything to make it harder for people to access these pills. So know that people are accessing them in the United States. We as an organization are not going to provide that information. However, I would direct you, there's an organization called Plan C that has done some really interesting research about the pills ordered over the internet, so you can learn more there.
Thank you very much. And that was actually the second question was about Plan C. So you've answered both of them, Erin. I'm not seeing any more questions, but I'm going to allow just for a few more minutes if people do have questions they want to ask, either Caitlin or Erin. And in the meantime, I would just remind everybody that there are resources on self-managed abortion that are on the campaign page on our website. We have really laid it out with all of the resources being linked there. And you can access the webinar that Erin mentioned, which is phenomenal, and I reference it a lot. And you can also click through some resources and link to some of our partners. And there's actually a link to Plan C on that as well. So I'm not seeing any more questions, and we are always running a tight ship. Oops, I think one dropped in. Oh, this is a good one. What can medical students and medical providers do to support? Erin.
Oh, I'm so grateful for that question. Thank you for that. So we really need medical providers and medical students to help support in getting the word out, just along the lines of the training that Caitlin just provided. And that's because people often, when we talk about self-managed abortion, one of their top concerns is that the pills are not safe or effective, and medical students and medical providers are in a really solid position to explain the long track record that the Food and Drug Administration has with approving these drugs for use with a doctor, and the safety and efficacy of the drugs, as well as the data and what we know what happens when people take these pills. So we really ask for your support in this campaign and getting the word out. If you are local to one of the areas where we're doing work on the ground, please do let us know too, because we'd love to include you in some of our in-person events.
Yes, and I can say that we have had tremendous support in the public forum that we are organizing on October 7th in St. Louis, Missouri, support from providers and medical students as well. So we're excited that they're going to be in attendance and able to participate as well. So the next question is specifically about about the states with automatic triggers. What are the 4 states with automatic triggers, 7 states that have pre-Roe bans on the books, and the 7 states that have laws expressing intent to restrict abortion to the maximum allowable amount?
Yeah, I would refer you to guttmacher.org to look at, they have really wonderful maps and charts where you can see not only what states have those types of laws on the books, but also to see what's happening in your state on a variety of abortion restrictions.
Thank you for that. Next question is, are there any thoughts or recommendations regarding self-managed abortion for minors who are unable to get parental consent or judicial bypass for abortion? I know that judicial bypass and parental consent are on the books in a lot of states.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one as well. So we know that medication abortion is safe and effective. We also, as an organization at Reproaction, we stand behind young people. We believe in them. We believe in their capability to make informed decisions about their lives. And so self-managed abortion, as I mentioned earlier, it represents in many ways new frontiers in abortion access and ways that people are finding to get the care that they need in spite of horrific legal and logistical obstacles being put in front of them by politicians who do not have the best interests of them in mind.
Thank you for that. The next one is a quick question about whether Plan C is connected to Women Help Women.
Thank you for that. Women Help Women and Plan C are two independent organizations, and we're happy to work with both of them.
And they are also linked on our campaign page. So visit our website. So I'm not seeing any other questions. Just going to give a few more minutes because those were really good. And they all popped up at the same time. Going once. So I will just take this time to thank our attendees. We really appreciate your time. We know that this has been a long and challenging day, but this is such an important topic and one that we're proud to present now at this time. And also to thank Erin and our senior organizer, Caitlin Blenny, for a wonderful presentation and wonderful material. As I mentioned before, please do visit us at reproaction.org. You can email Erin at erin@reproaction.org or Pamela, that's me, at pamela@reproaction.org. So one more question and then we're going to go. Regarding Plan C and Women Help Women, what do you think is the best way to drive people seeking care there without overstepping legal boundaries?
So there's nothing illegal about sharing information. So in terms of giving people information and pointing them towards other organizations that are providing information, there's no concern about that. And we encourage you to share the information on our website, as well as share the links to a variety of organizations that are linked there. In addition to Plan C and Women Help Women, we link to National Advocates for Pregnant Women, a wonderful partner for us, as well as the SIA legal team and other organizations. There's no shame and no, not just no shame, there's no legal concern with sharing information.
And I think that's a perfect note to end on. And as Erin said, we have a wealth of information on self-managed abortion on our campaign page and throughout our website, but all of it is compiled in this one page that you can easily reference, including, if you go towards the bottom, blog posts that show you, get you a feel for what our public forums are like, and I think they're a fantastic resource if you're not able to attend one. Thank you to Erin, thank you to Caitlin, and thank you to our attendees for your fantabulous questions. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye-bye.